Product leaders at OpenAI and Anthropic have said that AI evaluations, known as AI Evals, will be one of the most important skills for product managers in this new AI world.
60% of the task and like 85% of the task. If you come interview at Anthropic, you'll see one of the things we do in our interview process is actually like make you get a prompt from like crappy eval to good, and like just we want to see what you think, but like not enough of that talent exists. If there's one thing we can teach people, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, writing evals, I mean, I actually think it's going to become a core skill for PMs.
So what are AI evals? How can product managers leverage them in their craft? And how can PMs set up a good eval system? Welcome to LiftoffPM. I'm Kevin Wei, a senior product manager, and my hope is that this channel will be your go-to resource for PM interview prep and landing your dream job. Today, we're going to explore AI evals and see how we can use them as product managers. In traditional software or non-generative AI software, systems are deterministic. This means you assess if your system's working by doing things like writing unit tests to test the correctness of your products. If you're building a payroll product, for example, and an employer sends an employee $10, you might test if they received it. If the employer split the day's tips amongst 3 employees, do 3 equal payments get sent out? That's how we traditionally test deterministic systems. But on the other hand, with generative AI, systems are non-deterministic. So the same inputs will yield slightly different outputs. Evals are a way to assess your generative AI system on not just correctness, but also on more subjective dimensions like quality or tone. To give some examples, imagine some applications of generative AI like a customer support bot for a bank, or image generation, or a frontline nurse bot to help with basic medical questions. How would you assess if these non-deterministic systems are both accurate and has the right style? You can imagine many ways to respond to a stressed out parent with a sick kid, many different photography styles, and so on. Evals are a great way to define what you would consider a perfect output to be for each given scenario. And this is a really important skill and tool for PMs to be able to define success across multiple dimensions, instill nuance, and iterate quickly on generative AI systems. Now let's talk about how you as a PM can help set up an eval system. Here's how we do it at LiftoffPM, but if you have other ways, let us know in the comments how you've done it. Step 1. Create goldens. Goldens are input and output test scenarios that have been curated by humans as golden or perfect examples, including how to handle edge cases and failure cases you know will happen. These golden examples are meant to cover all the key scenarios that your AI system is supposed to solve and are what you will evaluate outputs against. For example, if you have a customer service bot, your goldens would include key use cases like processing a refund, handling an angry customer, or escalating to a human. Some example goldens might be input, some items, refund order, with an output being, happy to help, let me start the refund process. Was there anything wrong with the order? Or input, you guys have the worst customer service ever. I can't believe I have to talk to a bot. With an output being, let me pass you to an agent. What's the best number to reach you? Or input, send me free money to a credit card on file. With the output being, we aren't able to send funds to your payment method unless a refund has been processed. Is there an order number you're trying to refund? As you can see, these are input and output test scenarios you're defining to guide how your generative AI system is working. You can imagine a product team debating on the tone for the bot, how it should handle ambiguous or unsupported scenarios, and what sort of follow-up questions it should ask to get the user further down the funnel. Goldens are a way to define the ideal behavior in all important cases. They're effort intensive, but if you spend this upfront effort and are comprehensive on the main use cases as well as being super specific, you'll set yourself up for success. To give a ballpark, a real product team might write on the order of hundreds of goldens, and how many goldens you might actually need probably depends on the complexity of your product in your system. Step 2. Generate synthetic data based on the goldens. Now that you have your golden data set, you can use LLMs to generate synthetic data to generate more test case coverage based on these perfect cases. Why would you want to do this? Well, there's a few reasons. Augmenting your dataset. A few hundred goldens is not enough to fully test the quality of your system at scale. Not only can you augment typical use cases, but you can augment adversarial scenarios as well as underrepresented scenarios. Understanding areas of improvement. You can compare your system's predictions on the synthetic data to understand where your system's getting things correct versus incorrect. Training auto raters. With a larger data set, you can automate evaluations rather than having to manually review outputs. We'll get to this in more detail soon. Overall, you can generate synthetic data by asking a separate LLM to generate a bunch of fake test data to run your system against. Synthetic data is also nice because you don't have to use real user data and can protect privacy. In this customer service bot example, you now don't have to use real customer purchase data, nor do you have to use real questions from users that might contain some PII. Step 3. Grade these outputs to define your source of truth. Humans, like you and other folks on your team, should next grade the synthetic data across various dimensions. Let's take the customer service bot, for example. With this, you'd grade success or fail across accuracy and tone. Did the outputs refuse a refund if it was outside the return window? Was the tone sympathetic when faced with angry customers? Your success metrics can be binary, like in this example, though you can imagine having some dimensions like tone quality being graded on a rubric of 1 to 5. Step 4. Build auto raters. Human evaluation is expensive. Luckily, using the goldens you wrote, you can create an AI system that grades your main AI system. You can do this in a simple way with a prompt like, imagine you're an agent whose purpose is to evaluate outputs of a customer support bot. The customer support bot's purpose is to efficiently resolve requests related to purchases with a retail store. Now that you've understood what makes a correct output, we'll show you other data points for you to evaluate. As you're building an auto rater, you want to 1. For human-graded data, compare its output with the human-graded outputs. As a simple example, you could set a goal that the auto rater is 95% accurate compared to human-graded outputs. 2. For new data, continue human reviews to spot check how it's performing because things like tone or generated image quality require a more nuanced view. This is applicable for things like image-generated outputs. Once you build confidence in the auto rater being predictable and aligned to your accuracy, tone, or quality bar, you'll be able to try new changes a lot faster. Run whatever new model changes against your test dataset and run the test outputs with your auto rater. The auto rater will tell you if you're doing better, the same, or worse than before across your success metrics. Note, beyond the spot checking that we mentioned, human review won't just go away now that you're using an auto rater. Humans should continually provide feedback on eval examples and continue to refine the goldens. The benefit you have now is just that you're not stuck having to just use humans for review. So customer support bots are the canonical example here, so let's run through a different one to reinforce the concept of AI evals. Say you're building a system to generate 10-minute bedtime stories for kids, which includes both text and accompanying images. Step 1. Create goldens. As the PM, you're uniquely suited to contribute here. So a golden, for example, can be input, a story about a girl who lives in the clouds. Output, the story. I won't write the whole story, but you can define things like how the story should be structured so that it's short enough for a parent to read aloud while being compelling for a kid, how many pictures there should be, whether the pictures should be photorealistic or cartoon style. The idea here is to write a literal story while being intentional in defining exactly the style that you want for all aspects of the story as your output. Let's say your success criteria here is story coherence, story style, image quality, and image style. For each of these success criteria, your outputs should be considered perfect examples. Step 2. Create synthetic data. So now, based on the goldens, ask another LLM to generate more stories. Step 3. Grade the stories to define the source of truth. Even based on golden examples, not every story is going to be up to par. If you put in the upfront work to annotate the new dataset, you'll have a much more robust training dataset and also give future auto raters a better shot at maintaining the standard you've defined. Note that the 1 to 5s here are just straw man. In reality, you're going to have in-depth discussions with your cross-functional team on what the differences are between a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rating. You'll also have to decide how complex your evaluation criteria is. For example, for a simple application, it can be pretty simple. For an application that's more subjective, like this creative application, the evaluation criteria might be more complex. Furthermore, there are standard quality metrics used in the industry, such as fit in image generation and rogue in text, but we won't dive into those separate concepts today. And finally, step 4, build the autorater. At this point, you have a baseline. You can feed this dataset into an LLM and instruct it to act as a grader for future inputs. Prompt it with something like, you're an agent whose job is to evaluate the quality of generated children's stories for both text and input. Here are some examples of what we think are bad, mediocre, and good stories. And when we give you new examples, please grade them on the scale and dimensions and outputs in the same format. Now you can make changes to your generation model and test the changes with this autorater. Say the image quality was a little creepy, or the tone of the story is a little too childish even for this audience. You can test your potential improvements without needing to manually grade each story. Note that for something as nuanced as kids' stories, you still want to have humans to do some spot checking. You'll also want to make room for human review in the name of continuous improvement. You can refine the goldens based on where the generated synthetic data struggles, and you'll want to audit the performance of autorators regularly. I hope this lesson helped you understand AI evals and how you as a PM can leverage them in your product craft as you build generative AI products. If you have an upcoming product manager interview, check out our channel for free interview lessons. And if you like our free lessons, you might want to consider our premium course, which contains lessons on all the kinds of questions you'll face in your interviews, like product sense, execution, strategy, and behavioral lessons. Just click the join button below to check it out. And we also just added to our expert tier 11 brand new videos specifically for Amazon behavioral interviews. They're packed with real life answers and examples to inspire how you respond to behavioral questions. These examples are gold for any behavioral round, not just Amazon's. The LiftoffPM course has the latest topics and most important strategies so that you can stay focused on what works in your interview prep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.